Governor Rick Snyder to stop water shutoffs in the city of Detroit. The National Action Network led this protest outside the Detroit offices of the state of Michigan. Among those joining the fight, Wayne County Executive Bob Ficano and State Rep Phil Cavanaugh. They want the city to stop shutting off water to residents, and they want the governor to come up with a plan to help those who need help paying their water bills.
Michigan has the largest resource of fresh water, not in the nation, but in the world. And there's no reason why people in the city of Detroit who pay for this water system through our tax base should not be able to have access to that water.
Now, the water department says that half of all customers are behind on their bills. They encourage everyone to come in, try to create a payment plan so the water will not be shut off. Pastors and citizens once again pleading with Governor Rick Snyder to stop the water shutoffs in Detroit. The group also wants the governor to implement a comprehensive water affordability plan. The water department shut off service to about 8,000 customers in May and June. About 17,000 more are on payment plans. Some say access to water is a right, and the city and state are not doing enough to provide it.
Everybody should have access to water. So if you make $10 a year, then you should be able to pay 50 cents a year for water.
That's right.
If you make $100,000 a year, then of course you should be able to pay what you can afford.
Now, some people we spoke to say that they admit they're behind in their bills. In fact, one guy says he's $500 behind. But he says he's trying to get on the payment plan right now. But in the meantime, he won't have any water this weekend. By the way, a rally is planned for July 18th at Hart Plaza. We've heard plenty about Detroit's water department going after residents who have not paid their bills. Now they're going after businesses. This week, 200 commercial and industrial properties are getting shut-off notices pasted on their doors, saying that they will lose service if the bill is not paid. It's a way to reach out to owners to make sure that they make payment arrangements and avoid any surprises.
We've caught some flack for some of the apartments that we've shut off, where residents of those apartments didn't know that they were being shut off, but however their owner knew. So we're giving them the chance to know that, hey, in 10 days, the water will be shed for non-payment.
Now, the water department says the suburbs do not pay the tab for unpaid water bills in the city of Detroit. Detroiters pay that amount. Tonight, a new twist in Detroit's bankruptcy. A New York investment firm brought in to appraise the DIA's art collection now says it could be worth as much as $4.6 billion. Now, that's far more than the appraisal done by Christie's auction house, which said it was worth only about $800 million. There are about 60,000 paintings, sculptures, and displays inside the DIA. Some creditors are pushing for that art to be sold to bring in more cash into the bankruptcy process. Rich, thank you. Protesters sound off after city crews shut off water to people who are not paying their bills.
Water is a human right! Stop the water shutoff! Water is a human right!
The water department says they simply need to balance their books, but these protesters argue that water is not a matter of money, it's a human right. Police arrested 10 people at this demonstration for blocking the entrance to a private company in charge of turning off the water to homes and houses in the city.
To disconnect water from people who cannot afford to pay is a violation of human rights. And we wanted to make sure that Hamrick understood that, as well as, of course, the emergency manager and the governor.
The protesters say that many of the people targeted by the shutoffs are poor and low-income seniors. A group called the Detroit Water Brigade has begun delivering bottles of water to those in need.
I'm Monica Gale with a look and get to the point.
Detroit had its struggles, but that's history. Welcome to the new Detroit. With new business commitments, Detroit is quickly moving ahead, and real estate opportunities are better than ever. Investors looking for guaranteed income and high returns. Call 844-NEW-DETROIT right now. Buy one, get one free. That's right, buy one house, get another free. The new Detroit is now. 844-NEW-DETROIT or visit us at 844newdetroit.com.
Detroit is looking for a way to pay its bills, and residents in that city have a variety of problems when it comes to fire, when it comes to police, when it comes to education. Now, all of a sudden, water is an issue. Residents in Detroit with past due balances as low as $150 receive notices that their water could be shut off if they don't pay. Nearly 50% of residents in Detroit are delinquent with their water bills, and activists are in an uproar, and protests have spawned across the country, even internationally. The UN has gotten involved as well. They said in a statement, quote, disconnection of water services because of failure to pay due to lack of means constitutes a violation of the human right to water and other international human rights. But Detroit's Water and Sewage Department says, wait a minute, not so fast. Out of Detroit's 700,000 residents, only 46,000 received shutoff notices. And of those, only 4,500 actually had their water cut off. On top of that, 60% of those whose water was shut off had it restored the very next day. The remaining 40% had it restored within 48 hours. So what's the big deal here? Joining me from Skype, or from Detroit, Daryl Latimer, the Deputy Director of Detroit's Water and Sewage Department, and Monica Lewis-Patrick, founder of We the People of Detroit, a grassroots organization fighting to keep the water on for vulnerable residents. Folks, welcome to the show. Daryl, I want to go to you first. Daryl, I want to go to you first. This is obviously an important issue here. One of the complaints from critics is that Detroit has raised the water rates. The city council just voted for another increase. Residents are saying, my God, how can we keep taking increases when it comes to the cost of our water?
Precisely, Roland, and that is why we're launching this campaign. And keep in mind, we've always shut off water for delinquents. So basically what we've done is stepped up those efforts because of the continual rise in water rates. One of the reasons why Detroit rates keep rising because of the amount of bad debt associated with collections. Detroit's revenue requirement to the department is some $330 million, but we have to add another $42 million to that because there's the bad debt factor, the uncollectibles, and we're trying to change that so that we're fair to all of our customers. The customers that are paying their accounts, and let's keep in mind, there's more customers paying their accounts than that are delinquent. However, those delinquent accounts, they linger on, and it would be irresponsible for the department to continue to allow someone to be delinquent on their account and reach a point where it's unpayable.
Monica? I want to go to Monica now. Monica, the bottom line is, look, when you get city services, whether it is water, whether it is, let's say you have gas, let's say you have other kind of services, you have to pay for them. Your thoughts on what Daryl just said?
I find it very interesting that Mr. Lattimore's comments are about fiscal responsibility, but the truth of the matter is that Mr. Lattimore is not actually running the department. The department is under the control of an unelected, unaccountable emergency manager by the name of Kevin Orr. And what this is targeting the least of those the most vulnerable, to take away a key asset and access to water so that those particular communities can be forced out of the city through a very aggressive gentrification plan. I don't see the same kind of prioritization that Mr. Lattimore is referencing to people like Mr. Mike Ilitch through the Joe Louis Arena that owes over $80,000 in unpaid water bills, or Ford Field that owes over $55,000 in unpaid water bills. The VA hospital owes over $132,000 in unpaid water bills. Palmer Park, a local golf course, owes over $422,000 in unpaid water bills. So if there was an equal implementation of prioritization, I could agree with Mr. Lattimore. But my concern is that this is really a mechanism to ensure that the most poor Black and brown citizens of our community do not have access to a basic human right, which is water.
Daryl, what about that? Monica lays out several folks who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in delinquent water bills. Are you cutting that water off, or are you getting full payment for their delinquent bills too?
Those entities are not delinquent. And that's the problem. We're having people throw out a lot of numbers. None of them have facts associated with it.
Okay, so let's take it right here. Down 1 second. So Monica said there's a local golf course that owes more than $400,000. From your perspective, what are the facts?
The facts associated with that, that's our golf course that's owned by the city of Detroit. We're right now in discussions with the city of Detroit. We've also received some payments from the city of Detroit. We're right now adding those to accounts. That golf course is owned by the city of Detroit.
Okay, so even though the golf course is owned by the city, would you shut off the water to that golf course? They're only $400,000.
Yes, but that you got to keep in mind, Roman. Water for the bigger commercial entities is not the issue. The water bill attached to that property is $23,000. The $400,000 that's being cited is for stormwater drainage. We have a number of commercial companies that have a high bill and don't have water. We're still continually to charge them for stormwater drainage.
All right, Monica?
Well, I find that very interesting because the shutoffs are occurring in conjunction with the emergency manager, Kevin Orr, who is actually a straw boss acting on behalf of the right-wing governor of this state, Rick Snyder. And it seems that this is a plan to support the privatization of the management and the operations of the water department. What I would ask Mr. Lattimore is that can he describe for us or can he tell us whether or not it is his position to privatize the water department of the citizens of Detroit?
Daryl?
It is not my position. I'm a city of Detroit employee. We've shut off water every year. This has absolutely nothing to do with the emergency manager. Absolutely nothing. We do this every year. For some reason, this has garnered national attention. And if you go back in the history of this department, you can go back for years, and we've always shut off water for delinquency. The problem has arises that there's so many of our customers now that are delinquent that we had to launch an aggressive effort to try to keep up. We've always used a number of options at our disposal to try to collect for delinquents account. That is, we would put it on the tax roll. We went from quarterly billing to monthly billing. This is not new. This is being attached to the emergency manager. And we've always shut off water for delinquents. And so I don't know, anyone that lives in the city of Detroit should know that.
Monica, you have about 15 seconds, go.
Yes, sir. What I would say is also that what Mr. Lattimore must add to the equation is that Detroiters had a long history of paying their bills, of keeping up the structure of the water system. But what we have had is made disinvestment in the city of Detroit, while others have benefited from our crisis here. That what they have done is created this mechanism to ensure that Detroiters cannot continue to stay in this city.
Well,
and so this is not a long history of them shutting us off, and this is just a common practice. This is a mechanism through emergency management under Rick Snyder to ensure that Detroiters no longer have access to an asset that they have invested in, they have continued to keep and pay for.
I'm out of time. Monica Lewis Patrick, Daryl Lattimore. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Next week.
The cash-strapped city of Detroit is cracking down on delinquent water bills and shutting off water to thousands of residents. A Detroit congressman has already appealed to the president, and some officials connected to the UN have criticized the shutoffs, saying they may amount to a human rights violation. NBC's Ron Mott has more.
Nothing. It's been about 2 months since any water has come out of Nicole Hill's faucets in Detroit. So were you here the day this happened? A dry spell caused by contested bills, she says, totaling $5,700.
Buying, David Copperfield magically giving me $5,000. There's no way I can pay it.
Hill is among the roughly 12,500 customers whose water was shut off by the city beginning this spring for non-payment, forcing them to depend on donations or buy expensive packaged water to keep what an advocacy group calls a basic human right flowing.
We never asked for free water. We want to be able to pay what we can afford. This is a human rights violation. What kind of government would allow its people to live without water? What kind of people are we?
An executive with the city's water department said nearly half its residential accounts were 2 or more months behind on payments and owed more than $150. The average delinquency, $560.
The department would be irresponsible if it just allowed this to continue. You never want to exercise shutoffs. That's basically your last resort. But we were left with no choice.
Activist Monica Lewis Patrick is spreading word about the controversy.
I'm here to give you some information about the water shutoffs.
Alleging gentrification is the underlying motive which city officials dispute.
One of the most egregious issues that I think this country is facing is to allow people to be denied water because someone else wants to benefit from that.
Well, Rosa
Rosemary Malone, a retired 31-year Detroit police sergeant, her water bills suddenly surged at the beginning of the year for no apparent reason.
I owe the total amount due, $1,300.
She's received a shutoff notice. Does something happen in the house over the winter?
No, sir.
Burst pipes?
No, sir.
Nothing like that?
No, sir.
So this is inexplicable. You can't...
They can't explain it. I can't explain it.
A city awash with financial troubles, leaving some feeling tapped out, others literally. Ramad, NBC News, Detroit.